Okay, welcome to today's class, everyone. And I believe you can see my screen. If you can see my screen, use the chat box. Last Wednesday, last class, we actually did something. We used basic tools here to actually achieve some basic drawings. We used the line tool, we used polyline, we found out different ways we can actually construct circles. We found out different ways we can actually construct arcs. We did rectangle and polygon. We did not do the ellipse. Yes, we did not do this one. This one will wait until later. We did not do this one also. So for today, we're going to be using some basic modifying tools. But before we do that, before we start modifying, you see the basic modifier tools here. Before we start modifying, we do something. I skipped. I actually skipped it intentionally for today's class. We're going to be using a command called points. Yes, points. Now, the point command help you draw precise place markers. Let's say for a surveyor, you go to sites and you, let's say you took some plots, like you plotted an area, and you want to actually transfer that plot to a basic working data in AutoCAD. You can actually plot those points gotten from your survey on AutoCAD. How do you do that? You use what we call the points command. So with the point command, how you can access the point command, you just go to draw, drop down that menu right there, and you select on points. See it, you select on points, these multiple points. So once you click on this, you can actually create points. Let me do something here. Let me go to a new drawing, and I'll turn off some of these toggles here. I'll have to turn them off. Okay, they're turned off. So I'll go to points command. I'll select this multiple points, and I'll begin to click just randomly. Okay, now we have points, and you see they're very tiny, you can't see them. This is because a point has no size. Yes, a point has no size. That's what you know about points. Point has no size. They are acting as place markers for construction of maybe other objects or something. So now with this created, how can you actually see this point clearly? There is something called dynamic dialog point type. That dynamic dialog will help you change the properties of this point to be more visible. And how do you command dynamic dialog? You can command that by typing DDP type, just DDP type. You can see it right here. So how did I do that? Just type anywhere, just type DDP type. Now with DDP type, you can actually change the look of your points. So this is what you get when you type that and press enter. This is the dialog box you get. Now with this, you can choose the way you want your points to be displayed. As you can see, we have different options right here. This is the default option. So we don't want that one, we want something else. If I select this one right here and set the value to whatever I want, and then I say okay, you see these points that are displayed on this screen will actually be displayed as a cross marker. We can also make it displayed. We can also make it this way if we want to. And if I say okay, this point size here, you see two different options for the point size. This one is telling you that okay, I want to set the size relative to the screen. So if I set it relative to the screen, it will take the amount of the unit I impute here and calculate the total area of the screen and make sure it is, for instance, I impute 10. If I say okay at this set size relative to screen, what it does is that it calculates the entire area of my drawing area, the total size of my drawing area rather, and then it calculates 10% and allocates 10% to each of the points right there. So you see the size of the points will be equal to 10% of the total drawing area. That's what it does if I set it to this right here. But if I set it to set size in absolute units, what it does is that even if this drawing area is so large, it will set it to an absolute unit. Let's say I put 10, it will set it to 10 units, and that 10 is 10. Even if you try to zoom in or out, it will actually remain at that 10 units. So let's try, first of all, let's try this. Set size in absolute units, and I impute 10. I say, okay, well, I don't want to use this style. I want to use something really, really, really cool. Okay, I'll use this one, right? Okay, yeah, I'll use that one. So now you see, it sets this to 10 units. See, I zoomed in and it's 10 units. If I zoom out, and then even if I regenerate this model, the Regen command helps you regenerate your model, actually. It helps you regenerate. That's, it updates, actually, it updates the screen for you. So I'll just do Regen. And you see, even if I regenerate it, it's still that same size because I use absolute units. So it will remain this size, even if I zoom so in, it will not mind that a point has no size. So it will just keep it at 10 units. So even if I regen at this point, it will remain 10. So I don't want it to be this way. I want it to actually take a percentage of my screen. So even if I zoom in or out, I can actually regen and it will give me a very nice look. So I will do that again, DDP type, enter. I'll still use the same style, or let me use a different style this time. And I'll change it to set size related to screen. Now you see. Now let's see what's happening here. Okay, we have this, right? See, if I zoom in this way and I regenerate, enter, it actually reduces the size to suit 10% of the total drawing area. I don't know if you understand this part. If you understand, please use the chat box. I like communication. Use the chat box, say, yes, I understand. If you understand up to this point, please use the chat box, say, yes, I understand. Because it's very crucial. It's very, very important. If you understand, please use the chat box. Okay, Shagom. Okay, Jumpo, I see you. Okay. Okay. All right. For the sake of Jumpo, I'll just run this quickly. Now, DDP type. I said, for instance, I use a surveyor, for instance. This time I'm going to use an object. Let's say you want to draw something relative to, or using coordinates. You want to, okay, I see you. Samuel, I see you. You want to draw something. Let's say you want to create an object. And you want the object to start from the origin, and you want the object to go to some desired angles and things like that, or you want to use coordinates, absolute coordinates method. And also, if you want to plot points in AutoCAD, basically, surveyors use, most people just go, Omorishola, I will actually appreciate it if you mute your mic. Thank you. Most people go straight to using lines, while some people want to gain precision, will actually make use of point command. And I said for you to access this point command, you can go to your home tab, draw panel, and drop down that draw menu. Once you drop it down, you see so many options. Just go to this right here that says multiple points. If you're using an earlier version of AutoCAD, you see something quite similar, but the icon might be a little bit different. So just click on point, multiple points. And with this, you can start drawing. So before now, let's say I had DDP type. Before now, I explained that a point has no size. A point has no size. That's what I said. And this is it. This is an example of that. So if you see me draw points, it will look like this. It will simply look like this. That is it. And it's a bit too hard to see, especially if your grid is being turned on. Especially if your grid system is being turned on. You see, it's a little bit hard to see. So I'm going to turn that off. Now, for you to set it to be visible to everyone, you use a command called DDP type. DDP type stands for Dynamic Dialog Point Type. DDP type stands for Dynamic Dialog Point Type. It helps you set the parameter or the properties of your point to be visible. Know that the point has no size, but you can actually tweak, you can actually set its properties to be visible to everyone. So now, for setting up the points properties, we're going to use DDP type, DDP type. Okay, I'm going to do DDP type. Just type that to your command line, say OK, and it will bring up a dialog box like so. With this dialog box, you can actually set up the properties of your point. So I'll say I want to choose this to represent each point. And then I want this point to take up 10% of my total drawing area. That's why I'm imputing 10% right here. As you can see, right, it's set size relative to screen. So it will be 10% relative to the entire screen size. Now, if I say OK, you see what happens there? It takes up 10% of the entire drawing area. So now, with this, surveyors can actually plot all data points obtained after a survey with your points, yes? And later draw lines to connect all the points, and then it shows the entire area of your plot. I don't know if this is clear. John Paul, you say it wasn't clear. Samuel, you say it's not so clear. I don't know if this is clear. If it's clear up to this point, please say it's clear. If it's clear up to this point, please say it's clear before I move on. John Paul and Samuel Abiodun. Okay, it's clear, John Paul. Okay, now it's clear up to this point, so I can move. Now, last time I talked about absolute coordinate method, and I talked about using lines to achieve that, using polylines to achieve absolute coordinate method. What you were actually seeing me do was that I was actually plotting points. So each of this line, let's say I select my line 2 and it says specify first point. So if you notice right here, it's asking me for first point, this right here. That means each of any click I take, I'm actually creating a point. But you're seeing the distance of the line, right? I'm creating a point, but you're seeing the distance of each line. So what this means is that this line is being drawn as points. Right here, we have 1 point here, we have 1 point here, we have one other point here, one other point here, one other point here, and another point here. So that's how you construct lines, right? With point, but the point is being given lengths, and the lengths are visible in this case. But with the point command, PO, you can access that with PO. With the point command, if you create points like this, It will be something like one repeat command, two, sorry, repeat command, one, two, three, four, five, be something like this. So I know I just drew it randomly, but I'm trying to show that if you turn on your OSNAP mode and you use nodes, because these points are actually nodes, and you use this node, let me turn off every other and keep just the node and turn this on, this right here. Once you see the blue indication, you know it's turned on. So I can connect with a line tool, I can connect all these nodes together and actually get the representation of what I want to achieve, the shape I want to achieve rather. So as you can see, like so, a surveyor can go to site and get all the coordinates of his plot, and then come to AutoCAD using the point command, plot these points, and then uses the line command to connect these points to get the actual area of that land. That's it for surveying. But you can actually implement this other places also. You can implement it in other places. So I just wanted to clear this out before going to what we have for today. Today, like I said, today will be a very quick class. And I hope you understand this up to this point. Please use the chat box. We are going on to our class for today. Hope you understand it up to this point while we move. Okay. Okay, now. For today, I said we're going to be doing some modifications. Yes, you heard me right. We're going to be modifying some part. I have before now made this drawing as an example for what we're going to be doing today. Yes, we're going to be using some of these modified tools. We're going to be using some of these modified tools. First of all, we'll need to use the move command. Of course, we all know what move is. It's actually to move something from one location, to adjust something from one location to another, or transport something from one location to another. So we're going to be moving some items that are over here into what looks like a building from viewed from the top. So like this should be seen as a top view or a plan view of a room. Let's say this is a room, and this is a plan view of a room. And as you can see, I've created objects before now to actually furnish this room. So we have a couch here, we have a little one here, we have this table and a side stool. So we're going to be modifying our drawing by moving some of these items into this room. Okay, so now we'll start by moving, because the first command here says move. Now to move an object is quite simple. For you to move an object, let me turn this off. Okay, let me just do this. While we're moving the objects we're going to be moving, we're going to be making use of some of these drawing aids. These are called drawing aids. It helps you achieve precision while drawing. I will explain that as we use some of the modification tool. Okay, so I'm turning this off. Now, I want to try to move this object right here. I want to try to move this object into this room. So to do that, I can do that in two ways. I can either click on the move tool. Then when it asks me to select object, I can come here and select the object I want to move. In this case, I want to move this. I want to move the sofa. I can just highlight it and then use Enter on my keyboard. Now you can see the next prompt there is telling you to specify base points. Specify base point or displacement. Now the base point is asking you, okay, where do you want to pick this from? Where do you want to be the pick points? Yes, that's the simplest explanation of that. Where do you want to pick this from? You can decide to pick it from this point. You can decide to pick it from here. You can decide to pick it from this particular place. You can also decide to pick it from the center. You can decide to pick it from the center, the geometric center in this case. So now to enable you snap to any of these points you want to pick this item from, that's where you need to use a drawing aid called snap tool. This right here. This actually snaps the cursor to points on objects. So the snap tool will snap the cursor to points on any object you want to snap to. In this case, let's do something. I will go to the snap tool drop down. I'll go to the snap tool drop down right hand. And I'll select endpoints. I'll select endpoints. Now I'll close it. Now, if I come close to any of the endpoints of this object, you'll see it snap to that endpoint. The endpoint will always show you a square, a green square. That's telling you that, okay, this is the endpoint of this line. You see that line right there, that's the endpoint. You see this line right here, that's the endpoint. See this line right here, that's the endpoint. You see this arc, this is one of the endpoints. And right here, another endpoint. Okay? So you see a circle does not have any endpoints, but this spline does have endpoints. Also, this one has endpoints. So I believe you understand this. The endpoint snap tool helps you snap to endpoints of objects on your drawing area. You can also achieve that. Let's say this is turned off. Let's say you turn this off. Let me do this. I'm taking this out. Okay. Let's say it's turned off and you want to do that. You can also do that by holding down Shift on your keyboard and then right-clicking. You know, we have left and right click on your mouse. So not the left click. Hold down Shift and then right-click. You see an option right here. This option menu also helps you snap to points. So you can select endpoint in this case, and it will snap to any endpoint. Hope you understand up to this point. If you understand, please use the chat box, say yes. Use the chat box, say yes. If you understand to this point, please use the chat box, say yes. We're moving fast. Are you with me? If you understand to this point, please use the chat box, say yes. Okay, okay. That's nice. So you can snap to endpoints, and let's go over to the next one there. Let's also say midpoints. Midpoints. The first one was endpoint. I selected it before, and then I deselected it. And the next one says midpoints. This midpoint, as you can see, or you must have guessed, it helps you snap to midpoints on objects. Let's say this is the endpoint, it's been selected. Now look here, you see a midpoint. Let me select the midpoint option. Okay. I'll right click also, Shift right click. Shift right click. Before I selected endpoint, so it's restricted the whole movement to endpoint snapping. Now I'm coming to select midpoint. Now it will restrict all my snap to midpoints, like so. It will restrict all my snap to midpoints. The midpoint of each line, it will snap only to the midpoint right now. It will snap to the endpoint, but to the midpoint. Even if I select the endpoint here. See? Oh, wow. That's magic. Okay, so this actually overrides the previous command. So we're going to turn it off. So it will select only the midpoints in this case and snap to the midpoint. So if you want to move this so far by the midpoint, like if you want to pick it from the midpoint, you just go there, pick the midpoint, and then you move it to where you want to drop it. In this case, I want to drop it here, and I drop. Do you understand? If you understand this, if it's not like magic to you, please use the chat box. Yes, 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 yes. If you understand this, use the chat box, say yes. I'm going to move this back. Okay, it is quite clear to everybody. I'm going to move this back. Okay, so we have that. So we now understand how to use the move tool. Just select on the move tool. That's one way. You can select on the move tool and come and highlight the object you want to move. Press enter on your keyboard, and then select the pick point where you want to pick it from. You can either use this snap drop-down menu to select where you want to pick the object from. You can decide to use geometric center. We may all know what a geometric center is. It's actually the center of any shape. The actual center, not the nominal, the actual center of any shape. So you want to get the geometric center of this shape. See now, this is the geometric center because it's a single shape. This is the geometric center of that shape. So now we turn this off. We can use any of these points to actually snap to our desired point. So let's say we want this midpoint, take out midpoint. I want to snap to that end point. So I pick it at this end, and I take the software here and I drop. That is it for the move. That's one way to move an item. First of all, clicking before selecting the item. Another way to move is by highlighting the item before clicking on the move command. So you highlight the item, click on the move command, you come and select the base point. Base point is simply where you want to pick it from. I've explained it before, so I'll be a little bit fast with this. So for this now, I want to pick it from the center of this circle. How do I do that? Either I use the shift right click and select on center right here, or I come down here and select on this center. So either of those two will actually select this, will actually pick this item from the center. So right here, I'm picking it from the center, like so, and I take it close to the sofa right here. So anybody that's sitting down here can have a chilled glass of juice, like so. So that is it for the move tool. If you understand up to this point, please use the chat section, say yes, yes, yes. I'm going over to the next one, which is copy. Okay, John Paul, yes, you understand, everybody understands, well, that's good. Now the next one is copy. Like we all know, the move tool actually displaces an item from one point to another, while the copy actually creates duplicates of objects. In this case, I'm going to use this. I want to copy this item. I want to copy this item. I want to copy it to this area. I want to copy it into this room so that my room will look nice. So now, to copy that, I'll use the second option, not the first one. I'll just highlight it with the green selection window. I explain the difference between the blue and the green selection window the other day, the first day actually. I explained the difference between the blue and the green selection window. Maybe you can refer to the video if you want to understand the difference. Actually, so I will just do this, highlight it, and click on copy. What it does, what this will do is that it will create duplicates of this item. So now it's asking me to select base point. Like we all know, base point is the big point. So for the base point, I want to use the geometric center. How do I do that? Either I use the shift right click to go to geometric center, or I come down here and select the geometric center option and turn these other ones off. Once I do that, I come here, over around these lines. Once I over around this line, it will show me the geometric center. You see, right? Like so. So I click on the geometric center, so I pick it from that point, and I'll move it. Now, as you can see, look, it's creating a rubber band effect. Those dotted lines right there. Yes, they are recorded. They are on YouTube. I will drop a link to that at the end of the class. Like you can see, like so, it's creating a rubber band effect, just like an elastic with dotted lines. So that is happening because I did not turn on my orthogonal restriction. if I do this, if I turn this on, it will restrict the movement of any item, or it will restrict the movement of my cursor to 90 degrees. Like it will restrict it to 90 degrees. So it will only be going straight vertically and straight horizontally. Do you understand? I will explain again. If I turn on my orthogonal restriction, it will restrict this cursor. We all know what a cursor is. It's that thing that shows like an arrow. Okay, this right here. This is a cursor. This arrow head something. In AutoCAD, this is our own cursor, the crosshair. So now it restricts, if I turn that on, it will restrict that cursor to 90 degrees movement when a command is active. So in this case, I want to move something and I select orthogonal restriction. Now you see, it's only restricting it to 90 degrees movement. So I can only move it horizontally straight or vertically. I can only move it horizontally or vertically, like so. I can only move it horizontally or vertically. If I want to make it move freely in all angles, I can come here and turn this off, like so. So I can move it anywhere I like on all angles. Do you understand that? If you understand that, please use the chat box, say yes, yes, yes. So I'm just going to copy that and drop right here, just at the center or close to the center. Let me see if I can achieve the geometric center. This is not a complete shape. It's not a complete rectangle, so I'm not sure I can do that. I'm not sure I can do that. So you see, I cannot do that. So I'll just drop it here anyway. Yes, I can do something. Okay, watch me. I want to drop it at the center of this building. How do I do that? I will just have to trace some things. And how do I trace them? I can come here and turn on show snapping reference. Bear it in mind, show snapping reference. It helps you track a snap point. It helps you track a snap point. This show snapping reference. So now look what I'll do. I'll turn it on. Then I'll come here, activate the midpoints, because I want to get the center of this, the center of my house, or the geometric center of my house. So I come here and turn on midpoints while the snapping reference is on. I bring this down. You can say show snapping reference is on. I come here now. I'll snap to this midpoint. There should be a midpoint around there. Let me do it again. I select this, copy. I want to copy it, so I select copy. The snapping reference is on, and the snap to midpoint is on. And I want to copy it from this geometric center. I select on the geometric center. Now I want it to be at the center of this building. So what do? I come here, I snap to this midpoint. There's a midpoint here. I'll snap to that midpoint, bring it out. So you see the snapping reference. If you can see the snapping reference, it's a green line. It's a green line right there. Okay. So now I'll come up here and snap to this midpoint also to get that snapping reference. So now you see I've snapped to these two midpoints, and now I've gotten the geometric center of that building. If you understand up to this point, if you can see what I'm saying, please use the chat box. Okay, so I will drop it there. Now I've copied this item. Now, since the copy, okay, yeah, we can go, we're going. Since the copy creates duplicates, I can continue dropping it until I'm done. I can drop as much as I want and wherever I want, because I did not restrict it orthogonally. So I can drop as much as I want wherever I want. If you understand this, please say yes, and we're going. So that is it for the copy command anyway. So once you're done with the command and you want to end it, you just click on, either you come here, click on exit, or you use the enter key on your keyboard, just press enter, and we're done. So I've copied my table, or what I use to represent a table. I've copied it to my building, like so. So we can see we're done with the move, we're done with the copy, we're done with the move, we're done with the copy. Now we should go to stretch. Now for this stretch, I have to copy something out. I'll copy this software out. Copy, I'll select the software. I'll use the blue selection window. And if you understand the different selection window, you know what's happening right now. I'll use this. Okay, let me explain. See, the blue selection window, although I'm highlighting it to touch the other object, but because the other object is not fully covered, it's not selected, like so. But if I was using the green selection window like this, the green selection window is from the left to right. Sorry, from the right to left, while the blue selection window is from left to right. So now if I was using the green selection window, look what's happening. Any object I just touch, even if it's not fully covered, it highlights it. And that's not what I want. I just want to highlight the software. So I'll just highlight the software and then select. So you see it selected, I press enter because I want to copy it and I pick it from any point. Let's say I pick it from this point, I take it out. So I'm copying this thing out for illustration purpose. I want to illustrate how to stretch. If you understand that, say yes to the chat box quickly while I stretch. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to stretch this item. Let's say I want to create a couch as long as this. I want it to be lengthy and I want to convert this. I want to actually create it from this object. How do I do that? I will need to stretch it. Know the basic definition of stretching. Actually dragging something like an elastic stuff. So now I'm going to stretch this item. How do I do that? I click on the stretch command. I come here. I use the green selection window. Why am I using the green selection window? Because it's something I want to stretch. If I use the blue selection window, that means I will need to cover it fully. And if I cover it fully, it won't stretch it because there is no limit. Let's say there's no stretch limit. I will explain what I mean. If I use this, the blue selection window, it will cover this whole item fully. And if I do this and I say enter, and it asks me for, it's prompting me to impute my base point, I can just select anywhere and drag. Since I covered it fully, that means I want to stretch the whole item against itself. That means I'm moving it. It's just like holding a rubber band and you want to stretch the rubber band. You say, okay, I want to stretch, let me use this as a rubber band. I want to stretch this rubber band and I'm holding it with my two hands. And I use my two hands to cover it like so. Let's say I use my two hands to cover it like so. I cover it like this with my two hands. If I move this thing right and left, if I move this, like let's say this circle now is my hand, two of my hands joined together. If I move this to the right and to the left, it will not stretch the item. It will only be moving the item from one location to the other. Now, if I say, okay, I want to stretch this item. This is the rubber band I want to stretch. So this is the stretch tool. I want to stretch this item and I'm using my two hands. In this case, one of my hand is the green selection window and the other of my hand is this other part that is not selected. I'm trying to drag it opposite each other. So now select it this way and then say enter and say, okay, where do you want to drag? How do you want to start to drag? Okay, I want to start from the center to drag. I'll click here and I drag. You see, because I'm dragging and I'm dragging with my two hands, this part right here is one hand, while this other opposite part is another hand. I can actually stretch this thing. If you understand this, please use the chat box, say I understand, because I feel somebody might get lost here. Okay, Chinagorom understands. Okay, okay, so we can move on. Only 2 people. The rest, what's happening? Please, I need response. Okay, John understands. I don't want anybody to be lost, so I don't want anybody to be lost. Okay, okay, now we can move. Oluwatosin, are you on this call? So I'm going to, okay, do you understand? Wow. Okay, we're just going to continue. Okay, John Paul understand, but what this thing is not following along. So let's just help. Let's help. Okay, now I'm just going to explain that with this offer. Let me do this. I want to stretch this. I'll use the orthogonal restriction to draw a straight line. I'll turn that on here. I can use the F8 on my keyboard, F8. So now I'll draw a straight line like so. Now, I want to stretch this item. I want it to go one part to the right and this other part to remain the way it is, right? So now for me to stretch this item, I need to hold it by 2 points. Let's say I have something like this, F8 to turn off orthogonal restriction. Let's say I have something like this, like a vice holding this part strongly, like you're not going anywhere, I'm holding you back. And this is a vice holding this, that means this one is static, it's not movable. And now I want to stretch this other part now. Imagine this is a vice holding this, I want to stretch this other part. So I go to my stretch command, I click on stretch. Now, it's asking me to select object to stretch. If I select the entire object, it means that I am highlighting the whole object. That means I want to move the whole object. And that's not what I want to do. I want to stretch the object. So I have to indicate the demarcation. I have to indicate the demarcation. So now I will use this straight line, the y-axis. I will use this straight line as my demarcation. So I want to stretch this object, but I want to stretch it using this demarcation line. So I will highlight the object up to that demarcation line, right here, like so. Okay, I'll highlight it up to this point, like so. Now, if I stretch, if you notice some parts are highlighted and some parts are not. If I stretch, you will notice that if I click enter now and just select anywhere as my base point, you all know what a base point is, as in where you want to pick and drag from, or pick and move from, or pick and copy from. So I can just select anywhere as my base point and I stretch. Once I am stretching, you will notice that it is actually stretching this object from that demarcation point. Yes, Oluwatosin, I'm revising this because of you. So you see, I'm stretching this from that demarcation point. As you can see, it's just like an elastic, right? So I'll stretch it up to this point here and leave it. Once I click, I'll click to activate the stretch or click to release the stretch. So I'll just left click to release. Now you see it like so. It means that this software has been stretched from this demarcation. It's I kept this here so you visualize it as one hand holding a rubber band from this area, and this other area, another hand was actually pulling the rubber band against this other hand. Do you understand? Do you understand? Getting clear? Please, if you're clear now, Oluwatosin, if you're clear now, please say yes. Oh, wow, that's wonderful. So we all understand what it means to stretch. We all understand what it means to stretch. Now we can move on to the next modifying tool or modifying command. So now I just stretch this, and that is fine. we have another couch. So maybe we'll build another house, we can put this couch there. So now let's go to the next command, which is rotate. As you can see, this couch right here, it's not looking so nice. It's facing the wall. I don't know, maybe somebody's beefing somebody. So it's facing the wall, and I don't like it facing the wall. I want it to look nice. I want it to complete the building and not making the building look tattered. So I want to rotate it to fit how I want my building to look. So I want to rotate it this way. Some people will say minus 90 degrees. Yeah, I agree with you also. So I want to rotate it. How do I do that? I'll do that simply by using the rotate tool. See the rotate tool? You see it at the home tab, modify panel, you see the rotate tool. So the rotate tool helps you rotate items. Of course, I'll do an example before going to actually implement it, make a no spoil building. So now, for me to rotate this item, I'll have to highlight this item, of course, or I'll highlight the item first using any of the selection window, and then clicking on the rotate tool. So we know there are two ways. You click on the rotate tool and come to select your object or item, like so, or you select your item and then click on the rotate tool. Anyone you're comfortable with, just do that. So now I've selected my item and I've clicked on the rotate tool. Now it's asking me of my base points. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Your base points here. Now, for you to select your base points, you need to understand, okay, how do I want to rotate this? And how do I want it to move when I rotate it? So in this case, I want it to rotate from the center. So, you know, it's rotating from the center. Now, if I select the center as my base point, that base point will serve as the moment. I'm sorry, I'm using some engineering terms. Okay, now, it will serve as, okay, let me just use a point. It will serve as a point. You know, let me illustrate this. If you have an office pin and you have a little size paper, you can pin this size paper to a board using the office pin. Now, if you try to turn the paper while the office pin is still there, you notice that the paper will be rotating about that point. So that point there is your moment. Samuel, okay, that point there is your moment. So if you pin it to that point and you're rotating it, it means that the object is revolving about that particular point. So it's just going around about that point. Yes, axis, thank you. It's going about that point. So that's what it's asking you here. Where do you want to select as your moment or as your base point or as the rotation axis? Yeah, so that is it. Now, if you want to select anywhere, if I select this point, this end point, okay, of course I cannot select it because my endpoint snap tool is not turned on. So I'll come here and select that. So now it's turned on. So now, if I come here and select on this endpoint, what it does is that, okay, you see, it rotates my object about that point. Let me turn off orthogonal restriction so you see it clearly. Now you see what I'm doing. It's taking that green, see that green marked point there as the moment. So the couch will be rotating about that point. It's unmovable at that point. That point is not movable. That point is just there. While this is rotating about that point. If you understand up to this point, please say yes. Use the chat box. We're moving. Very soon we'll be off with this class. If you understand this, please say yes. Use the chat box. Okay? Okay? Yeah, well, I'm getting good feedback. Okay? So now it's rotating about that particular point, like so. So once you're satisfied with the angle of your rotation, you can just click to drop. Or if you're a very precise somebody like me and you want to rotate it according to an angle predefined by you, you can just type in the angle. So you can just say, okay, I want it to move by 90 degrees. Enter. So you see, what this does is that, okay, we have from this point right here, we have a line this way. Let's see this as this line. So now it moves, taking this point as its origin, it moved 90 degrees from this axis, the x-axis, upwards. That's why you see it go this way. 90 degrees from the x-axis. I'm taking this horizontal line as my x-axis. If you understand, say yes. If you understand up to this point, say yes. If you understand up to this point, please say yes. Okay, okay. That's fine, that's fine. Okay, okay, okay. So now we're moving forward, we're moving forward. So now we understand that you can rotate this. I'll click on rotate again. Base points. I can say I want to use the center or this midpoint as my base point. Of course, we all know that's the moment, and you see it's rotating about that point. So I can rotate it about that point as much as I like. And I can just rotate and maybe drop it in a way I like so. And say I want it to be like this. You see? But if you say, no, I don't want it to be like that, I want it to be precise. I'm a very precise somebody, so I want it to be precise. You can do the same thing. Enter. Select your rotation point, which is your base point, and then impute your rotation angle. You just type. You don't need to click anywhere. Just type. To impute your rotation angle, you just type. Let's say I want it to rotate by 45 degrees. So I go again 45 degrees, enter. So you see, it just rotated by 45 degrees. And I believe that is clear. Having said that, we'll just come here and rotate this software to look nice. I'll highlight it, and then I come to rotate. Then I click on the point I want it to rotate by. I don't want to click on this end point, because if it rotates by this end point, that means it will come this other way. I don't want it to come this way. I want it to rotate downwards. I want this part to face the right. I want this arc right here to face the x-axis. This arc, I want it to face my right. So what I'll do now is I'll pick it from this point as my base point. That means that point is your movable point, but it's the point about which every other object will evolve. So now I'll click that point as my base point, and now I want to rotate it this way. As you can see, it's giving me some crazy rotations. And if you want to be very sure what you're doing, there's another precision tool or drawing aid that you can activate to help you in this case. If you don't know, okay, I don't know the angle, but I want to be seeing it as I'm doing it. So now you come right here and turn on dynamic impute. If you turn it on, you'll be seeing all your dynamic inputs on screen. So now let's turn it on. Now we have it like so. So you see, because my dynamic input is on, you can actually see you can actually see a box. Yes, you can see a box, and with that box, you can impute the angle of rotation you want to go. So now let's say you want to rotate it by 90 downwards. So I'll just type 90. No, that was wrong. It went upwards. For me to rotate it by 90 downwards, who can guess? Use the chat box. There's something I need to do. Because I'm going anti-clockwise, there's something I need to do. No, there's something I need to do. I want to rotate it downwards. I'm not sure. Okay, I said we should guess, so we're just guessing. I'm not sure that will work. Okay, let's try some. John says, orthogonal is on. Yeah, I understand that part. John says 90. Let me see. John says 180, right? I'm coming. John says 180. Samuel says 180 or 270. John says 90. That's 180. Okay, let me see. Let me explain something. Because our units, let me go to unit command. Units. Remember, the unit is being set to anti-clockwise direction, like so. Let me anti-clockwise direction. I'll just put this here and put this here. Because it's being set to anti-clockwise direction, that means it's coming from the right to the left. Now, for you to make it go from the left to the right, it's either you use the minus sign or you come to this unit and click on clockwise direction and use just 90. Do you understand? So I'll just leave it like so, and then try to rotate this. Rotate, click on this this endpoint as my base point, and then I use minus 90. Do you understand? Do you understand? It's minus 90, guys. It's minus 90. Okay. Oluwatosin, do you understand? Chinogorom, yes. Okay. John Paul, Samuel, Omarishonla. Are you here?
Omorisola.
Omorisola. Okay, okay. Omorisola. If I'll call you Adekoya, I think that one is easier to pronounce. Okay, I should repeat that. I will. Okay, now let's say we have this. Okay, we have it this way. Now I'll go to my unit command and explain that. Units. Now I said, remember this one, the clockwise direction is not turned on because AutoCAD by default uses the anti-clockwise direction of angular movements or angular measurements. So in this case, okay, so we have this like so. Now in this case, if I want to make this go anti-clockwise, clockwise, because the default is anti-clockwise, that means it goes from the right to the left this way, like this. It goes like this. Okay? It goes like this from the right to the left. John, hope you're listening. It goes from the right to the left. Now, if you want to go the other way, which is the clockwise direction, it's either you come to your unit command by typing units. It's either you come to your unit command by typing units to set up this, to take this and make it a clockwise direction. That means you'll be going from your left to the right. If you don't want to tamper with this, if you don't want to change these settings, what you need to do is, if you don't want to change these settings, what you need to do is you just come here, and while you're rotating, because you know, okay, you're using the counterclockwise or the anti-clockwise direction. While you want to rotate, what you need to do is, after selecting your base points, when it prompts you to impute your rotational angle of rotation, what you need to do is you need to put a minus sign before the 90. So you know, yes, I want to go 90 degrees, but I don't want to go towards the clockwise and the counterclockwise direction. I want it to go to the clockwise direction. So I will put a minus sign so it will go this other way. Hope you understand to this point. John, if you understand, please say yes, I do. Use the chat box. Everyone, please, if you understand, please say yes. I'm moving on to the next two. Okay, okay, we're good. I'm having a good vibe. Like I said today, I'm having that, you know, I won't repeat it. Okay, now we're going to the next two, which is, let me just move this a little bit this way. Okay, and let me erase all these because we don't need them. Oh, yeah, I actually don't need them. I don't need them for now. So let me save. Always make it a good habit to save your work because you might be doing your work and you understand your system might just decide to shut down. Yes. Okay, now we have this looking nice. So now I want to make another room exactly like this room with everything the same. but I want to make this room face this way. I want to make this room face this way right here. I want to make it face this way. I want to make another room, and the room should look exactly like this. And I want to make it face this way. I want to make a mirrored version of this room. I want to make a mirrored version of this room. I want to mirror this room. Now, that's where, okay, John Paul, you're there. That's where we have the next command on our modify tools. We have the next command, like this one right here. It's called the mirror. Now, the mirror helps you create a mirror version of whatever object you have on your screen. Now, for it to mirror, it is assumed that there is a mirror line, but this line is basically invisible. You cannot see it. This mirror line is basically invisible. You cannot see the mirror line. So, because the line is invisible, I am going to create my own mirror line for the class. But just bear in mind that this line will be invisible, but you can just create your own mirror line. I will use a construction line. To create a construction line, just go to your drop-down menu and click on this construction line. Then come pick your points. In this case, I'll pick the midpoint of this line because I want to use that as my mirror line, and select it and then move upwards. I'll turn on orthogonal restriction to make it straight vertically. So I'll just keep it that way. And then if you notice, it's asking me to create other lines, but I don't want to create other lines. So what will I do? Either I right click and say, okay, I'm okay with this line, and that's it. Or I just press enter. In this case, I did the right click. Okay. So now this will serve as our mirror line. Let me just change the color quickly to something something huge, like Joe would say. Okay, so now we have that like so. So you see the line, that mirror line is a little bit faded. I like it that way, so it won't distract us from what we are doing. Now I want to create a mirror version of this. So I want to create this same building and duplicate it, but I want it to be mirrored right here. So they will be both joined together. Now, how do I do that? I will highlight everything here. But this time I don't want to use the green selection window, because if I use the green selection window, it will highlight both the mirror line. I don't want it to highlight both the mirror line. I want it to highlight just the object I want to select. So I'll go this way, like so. As you can see, it selected all the objects except the ones that are outside of the building and the mirror line. So now, having selected that, I will click on the mirror tool, like so. Once I click on it, it will give me a prompt. Specify first point of mirror line. To specify this first point of mirror line, I will use our mirror line as my first point. As you can see, it is not snapping to the mirror line. It is rather snapping to this midpoint. But I want it to snap to the mirror line. How do I do that? I will go to my snap tool also, or I use the shift right click like you all know, and I will activate nearest snap point. This nearest snap point here. What this does is that it will help you snap to the nearest point. It will help you snap to the nearest point. If you can hear me up to this point, please say yes while I'm explaining. What this nearest snap tool does is that it helps you snap to the nearest point. Okay, so I'll just click on it and close this. And then I come here and you see it snap. You see it there. The nearest point is shown by this sign here. Okay, so I'll just click. It looks like an hourglass. So I'll just click that and come here and click here. So you see, after that, it's asking you for something. Just look at this command prompt. Okay, erase source object. The source object here is referring to this particular items we selected. But no, I don't want to erase it. I just wanted to create a mirror. And I want to keep this other part also. So what do? I select no, or I type N on my keyboard. Any highlighted, see those letters highlighted in blue? If I type Y and say enter, that means it will erase the source object. but I don't want to erase the source object. I'll just type N and enter. So you see, we have the mirrored version of our building. So we now have 2 rooms. Do you understand to this point? If you understand to this point, please use the chat box. Use the chat box. Use the chat box. If you understand up to this point, please use the chat box. Okay, okay, okay. We're going. Yeah, we're moving smoothly. Okay, so that is it. So we now have a mirrored version. Now, hope we understand what the mirror line does. Now I will explain that again using this software. Now I want to create a software. I want to mirror this software rather, but I want to mirror it and I want them to be joined to it. Like I want them to be backing each other. So what I'll do is I'll highlight this and go to the mirror. Once I do this, if I create a vertical mirror line, it will mirror this horizontally, like so. If I create a vertical mirror line, it will mirror it horizontally, like so. Now, having done this, I will say, no, I don't want to erase source objects, like so. And it creates this. So now I want to mirror both of them together. This time I will use horizontal mirror line, and you will see it to create a vertical mirror. Now I'll click on this mirror, and I select the horizontal mirror line, like so. You see, it created a vertical mirror. And I'll click to implement, and then say no, because I want to keep source objects. Okay, if you understand to this point, please use the chat box, say yes. If you use a vertical mirror line, it creates horizontal mirror. If you use a horizontal mirror line, it creates vertical mirror. If you understand up to this point, please say yes. Yes, I'm having that good vibes right now. Okay, now I want to do another mirror, but this mirror will be diagonal. So in that case, I will use this external line here as my mirror line. So now I'll just come here, highlight, I go to mirror. Now, when it asks me for my mirror line, I'll just come here, click on this endpoint, and then click on this endpoint, like so. So you see, it created a diagonal mirror, and I will say no to keep both items. Now you can see, I have this software backing each other. If you understand up to this point, please say yes, use the chat box so I know I'm done with mirror line. I appreciate it if you just say yes or no, according to what you understand. Okay, Samuel says yes. Oluwatosin says yes. Adekoya says yes. Shinagoron says yes. Okay, we have 4 people saying yes to this. 5 people saying yes. Okay, 1 more person. There's somebody missing in this call. Yes, Asuko is not here. Maybe I'll reach out to him after the chat. Okay, Papure John says yes. Okay, we're good. We're good. So we're all good with the mirror. Okay, mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all? So we're done with the mirror. Now I'll just erase some of these items by highlighting them and using my delete button on my keyboard. Or I can just do the erase right here. Just click on erase and we're good. So now we've done that. Now we'll go over to the next two. If you look at our room here, you notice that the room is a little bit not well adjusted because you see a mirror here, and I don't want somebody from this room observing what is happening on this other side. So I will need to patch this up. I will need to clean up some of these items, like see this line here. I don't want it to be there. I don't want, what else? I don't want some of these extra lines to be showing. So now it's time for us to do some trimming, some housekeep, like they will call it. We'll do some housekeeping, trim off the unwanted stuff. First of all, I'll remove this mirror line just by highlighting it. I'll have to highlight it and then use the erase tool. Okay, we already know what that does, so I'm not sure I'm going to be talking much of it. So now we want to trim off some things that we don't need right here. How do we do that? We'll use a command called the trim tool. It's right here. It's the trim tool. Okay, now activate the trim tool. But before we activate the trim tool, I want to do something. So it will help all of us. I want to turn on dynamic impute. I'll turn it on right now. Dynamic impute is turned on. Now I'll come here and click on the trim tool. Now you see it's asking you to select objects. Now this select object is asking you to select. It means that, okay, we know you want to do something. You want to trim, you want to trim off some items. Now, can you kindly select objects that you don't want to be affected by this trim? That's what this select object is asking you. Okay, you want to trim, yes. But can you kindly select objects that, okay, peradventure you're trimming and you trim and you get to this object, it will not really affect it. It will not trim off this object. That's what this command is asking you. But no, I don't want to do that. I just want to trim as I like. If I want to trim off, I trim off. If I make a mistake, I'll just simply do an undo. I'll just Control Z to make an undo. So I'll just press enter on my keyboard to select all. That means I am trimming all of them. Do you understand? Do you understand this explanation? What this, I will just repeat myself again. What this prompts after you select your trim tool, immediately you select your trim tool, there will be a prompt of select object or mode. So now this select object here is asking you, yes, we know you want to trim, but can you kindly select objects that you don't want to be affected by this trim? So peradventure you're doing your trim and you touch this object, it won't be affected. I don't have time for that personally. So I will just select all to trim off anything I just touched. Anything I touch will be trimmed unless it has a boundary. Now, before I come to my house to begin the trimming, I would like to do an example. I like to create an example. Okay, let me do a little trim example right here. I'll just do this F8 to turn off orthogonal restriction. Do this, come here, do this, come here, do like so, and like so. Enter. Okay, now we have these lines. Now I want to trim. I select trim tool. Now it's asking me select objects you want to trim and blah, 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 blah. If I select this object, of course, it means I don't want to trim off this line, but I don't want to do that. Let me select this object. I don't want the trim. I don't want this object to be affected by this trim. So I'll select the object and say enter. Now I'll continue trimming. Once I select the object, I say enter. Now I can trim. I'll come here, trim off this point. I'll come here, trim off this point. You see, I just did a basic trim. As you can see, it has trimmed off some points up to this boundary here. It is using this line as the boundary. It is using this line as the boundary. If you understand up to this point, please say yes, I do. Not I do, just say yes. If you understand up to this point, please say yes. Okay, John Paul understands. Chinagrom understands. Okay, John understands. Okay. Okay, Adekoya, I know why you're laughing, but don't worry. Okay, we understand up to this point. Now, let me do the other way around, where we don't have to select objects. And that's the easiest one. Just click on the trim tool, and where it's asking you to select object, just press enter. Now you see, after you press enter, it means you can trim off. Okay. Oh God. Okay, after you select enter, you do for yourself, or you will do it yourself, my brother. So after you select enter, you can trim off any part of the drawing you want to trim. But there's an exception. Trimming an item or an object will only be trimmed to the nearest boundary. So if you don't have any boundary, that item won't be trimmed. I will explain. Okay, let's say we have this. I'll trim off this point. I'll trim off this point. And I'll trim off this point. Let me see this one. Let me see this one. I can trim this. Yes, I can also trim. Let's see here. I want to trim this part instead. And I want to trim this part. Okay, now I want to continue trimming to see if I can trim. I come here. You see, it's giving me that caution sign. What is trying to tell me that what you want to trim does not have an extension across this line. See this line right here? There's no extension of this particular line across this boundary. So what trimming actually does is that it trims a line. It trims a line to the nearest boundary. So for this line that was here, this particular line, let me see if I can extend it. For this line that was here, it trimmed. If I click here to trim, it will trim this line to this boundary. It will see this as a boundary. This line that is intersecting with this vertical line. This diagonal line is intersecting with this vertical line. So it will trim the vertical line with respect to this diagonal line as the boundary. But if I also want to trim the diagonal line like so, it will trim this diagonal line using this vertical line as the boundary. If you understand this, please say yes. If you understand this, please say yes. Okay, John Paul does. John Paul does. Okay. We're going to. Now that is it for the trim. You need to have a boundary for you to trim something. And you need to have the line you want to trim extended across the boundary for you to trim. I believe that is clear enough. Okay, John, now let me explain again. You understand to the point where I did the trimming, yeah? Okay, now let's say I want to trim. Okay, let me extend this to the nearest boundary. I just did a trim. I will extend this and extend it again. I will explain how I did that. Don't worry, it's not magic. Okay, now about the trim and boundary. Let's say I want to trim this line. If I trim this line, what it does is that it trims this particular line using this one here as the boundary. John, do you understand this? If you understand, say yes. It will trim this line using this as a boundary because this line is an extension of this diagonal line. And it is seeing this and this one, this vertical line. It is seeing this other diagonal line and this one right here as the boundary. Please mute your mic. I will appreciate it. Mr. John, please mute your mic. Thank you. Just listen, you understand. You understand, just listen. It will trim this line using this as a boundary. Now, if I come here to trim, it will trim this line also using this line and this one right here, this vertical line right here as the boundary. So you see it will trim here, leaving this part and this part. So you see, I cannot trim this line again because this line is not extended across this vertical boundary. If you understand this now, say yes. If you understand this, say yes. If you don't, still say no. Mr. John, are you with me? Okay, you understand it. Okay. Now, what I did while I was trying to, let me do something. Let's say I cut this, and this one I cannot cut it because it's not extended across this boundary. Now, if I want to extend it, there is something called extend right there. You see extend. Extend is the next one. And you see right there, extend is, you can extend it across a boundary. So now, if I want to extend, the criteria for me to extend something is that there is a boundary across, there's a boundary at the other side waiting to receive the line I want to extend. I will explain now. You see this line right here. If I want to extend it, there should be a boundary to receive this line. Yes, you're right, John. So for a line to be trimmed, it must extend across a diagonal or a line that is crossing it. Yes, there must be an intersection. That is it. So now for the boundary, for the extend command to work, there must also be a boundary at the other side to receive the extend. Now I will explain that quickly. Let me say I draw a line this way, and I draw another line here. and I draw another line here. Okay, now I want to do some extension exercises. Now, the first one is trim tool. The one under it is extend. So I click on extend. Now select object to extend the same way. I'll select and I'll just click enter, just like for the trim tool. Now, if I want to extend this line, because there's a boundary here, I want to extend this line. Because there's a boundary here, you see the extension will work. Now see, it will extend to that nearest boundary. And if I continue, it will extend to the next boundary, which is, of course, that suffer, like so. And also, if I want to extend this line, you see, it will be extended to that boundary. But now, what if I want to extend this line here? You see, it cannot be extended because there's no boundary here to receive it. You understand? If you understand, use the chat box. Because there's no boundary to receive it, this line cannot be extended. If you understand, please use the chat box before I continue. If you understand, please use the chat box. Understood. Okay, John understands. Samuel understands. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mics. Chinagoram understands. Okay. Omorishola understands. Oh, wow. That's good. Well, thank God you understand. Now, for me to end today's class, because this will be the end of today's class, for me to end today's class, I will just drop this. For you to extend while using the trim tool, because both of them are opposite each other, the trim is the opposite of extend and the extend is the opposite of trim. For you to extend while using the trim tool, let's say you're trimming now, and you say, oh, I shouldn't have trimmed that. I want to extend it to this boundary instead. So now what you do, you just hold down shift and click on the line you want to extend. Hold down shift in this case and click on that line. I can hold down shift again. Okay, it does not extend anywhere. Let's see. Okay, yes, it extends actually. So I can hold down shift, click, hold down shift, click to the next boundary. Hope you understand. If you understand, say yes as we close. If you understand, say yes as we close. You hold down shift to extend using the trim tool, and you hold down shift to trim using the extend tool. If you understand, say yes as we close. Okay, well, that will bring us to the end of today's class. And I will drop some links before we go. I will actually appreciate it if we go to our social media and follow these people, because they are actually the one that made it possible for us to gather here. They are actually the ones that actually called me up to say, okay, let's put up this training and help people out understand AutoCAD. So, okay, you're welcome, John. Another way to show your appreciation is to go to this channel and follow them. The host will come and he will drop all the links, all the required links to our social media handles. I will advise us all. I would really appreciate it. It really encouraged me as a trainer if you would go. I'm not saying you should follow me actually, but I would just like you to go to the social media handles and then follow them up. Host, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Victor. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so guys, thank you very much for attending. So for the links to the social media, it will be dropped on the announcement channel for everyone to also be able to follow the respective social media handles of KodeCamp. So let's just watch out. That will actually be posted in 10 minutes time. So let's look out for it. I think it's the least you can actually do. So thank you guys very much. Thank you, Victor.